is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode is brought to you by the Centers for Disease Control.
The best way to protect yourself from 2019 novel coronavirus is to avoid being exposed to the virus. Additionally, there are preventative actions that you can take to protect yourself and your family from the spread of respiratory viruses that can make you sick. These include stay home if you're sick, cover your cough, and wash your hands.
For more information, visit coronavirus.gov. That's coronavirus.gov. This episode, BLM in the UK. For this special episode of Gunshot Straight from the Hip, we travel across the pond to England, and my guest is Allison Joyce Rogers, who is the inventor of a device that's soon to be coming to the United States. We'll talk more about that in just a second. So how in the world are you?
Good. How in the world are you?
Oh, you know what? It's, oh boy.
It's a bit of a crazy one happening at the moment, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. That it is.
Yeah. And how are you feeling?
You know, not too bad. It's been a busy 48 hours here. Enough about me, Allison, but before we really get into the nuts and bolts of our conversation, you have this neat little invention that I had a chance to check out on Amazon UK, the tooth buckle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. So tell me about the tooth buckle.
Okay. So, I guess the kind of story starts. I used to fly for a living. I used to be a flight attendant, an airline here in the UK. What I found when I was traveling quite a bit, so we'd stay in so many different hotels, we'd travel the world. I was long haul, so I did a lot of countries. And I found that there was nothing on the market that first was sustainable, and secondly, what it actually was supposed to, which was to keep your toothbrush clean.
Right.
I mean, you must know, Mark, those cases that kind of go like this, and that, you know, they've been around since the 70s.
Right.
They're like
the rectangular cases, that just look like, yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of gross. They kind of like, you know, harbor bacteria.
Right.
And I thought to myself, well, there's got to be a better way of doing things. So at the time, my mother used to travel as well for a different airline. And we kind of put our heads together and came up with the tooth buckle, the first sustainable toothbrush cover that's easy to clean and is, you know, really sustainable because it lasts a lifetime. And people liked it, you know, to my surprise, they actually liked it. They were like, oh yeah, we have this problem too. And I was like, okay, so this works really well. And so we went through the manufacturing process. I mean, the drawings, the manufacturing process, design, development. We looked really even into the materials that we would use, which we use as a natural resource called from silica. It's silicone, but it's from a natural source called silica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we kind of like dived in that way. I mean, myself and my mum had never done manufacturing before. We'd never created a product from scratch. We certainly hadn't patented one.
Right.
So it was a very steep learning curve, to say the least.
Right. And the different thing about the tooth buckle, when you compare it to other toothbrush cases, is that this is very much form-fitting.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's a universal fit on your manual toothbrush and form-fitting. So it will not come off during transit, and it fits nicely in, you know, your cups that you have in your bathroom. Right. To toothbrushes. So we have, like, you know, I always say now, social distancing for your toothbrush. Unless you want some, that is.
Right.
So that works really well, and people tend to love it. Stick it in your dishwasher too, and the fact that it lasts a lifetime.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it's dishwasher safe. I love that. Now, right now, it's only available if you go to AmazonUK.com, right?
Right. But on, depending on when this comes out, but on Friday, next Friday, which I believe is the 26th, you will be able to get it worldwide. We're shipping everywhere, even to you, Mark, in Louisville.
You know what? I'll have to grab a couple. Congratulations! And in the midst of all of that, of all your entrepreneurial effort, and when we talked last week, we were talking about the worldwide protests of police brutality and systemic racism going on, not only here in the U.S., but there's quite a bit going on in the UK as well, right?
It is. It's wow. It's been heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a lot of Black people here in the UK, it's been a case of almost reliving some of those stories all over again.
Right.
That maybe you have come up against racism at work, from school or wherever it may be. People are reliving those memories all over again. It's been really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But like you say, it's been a fantastic turnout, which is a positive thing, because I don't think, that's ever happened before, not in the same way.
Right.
And people are really angry about how long this has been going on. I think people are really angry about that. And we have some very poignant cases that have happened here in the UK,
mm-hmm.
such as Stephen Lawrence. I mean, your UK listeners would know exactly who I mean, maybe even some of your American listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a really sad case for a young guy who was minding his own business, waiting for the bus, and he was attacked and killed. And it really hit the public to understand systematic racism is a real thing for us Black people. It really is.
For what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, because I'm watching reports all over the world, the English experience seems to parallel the American experience in a lot of ways, whereas you've got a prime minister who is off his nut in in Boris Johnson, and the whole Brexit thing from a couple of years back. And then all of this just seems to exacerbate an already precarious situation there.
Absolutely. It really does. Because you always want to feel, no matter whom you are,
mm-hmm.
you always want to belong in the country you're born into.
Right.
So I think to feel like an outsider sometimes in some situations, that you are not welcome, is a really heavy burden to carry. And I have to say that being a Black female, I have experienced racism here in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It is nothing that just, and I think people kind of had the feeling, oh no, it's an American problem.
Right.
And that's so not the truth. That couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I can think of an experience I had when I was a kid, a 6 or 7 year old,
mm-hmm.
Then and now looking back in retrospect, I can say, okay, that probably was the person that was racist towards me.
Right.
It is like America, and I think we do mirror America in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does, and it is a real problem over here that we have the same systematic racism that it kind of bleeds into parts of society. I mean, there's countless examples I could give you, Mark, of times where I felt that my race was the issue.
Right. In fact, I think just the other day I saw a video online of a police officer stopping a Black driver in a white neighborhood, and this officer pretty much told him, well, yeah, we stopped you because you're Black. And he went on to explain that the reason why we stopped you because you're Black, because this neighborhood tends to have a lot of Black drug dealers, and you fit the description. Now, here in America, racial profiling is something that is extremely frowned upon. And it kind of blew my mind when the officer openly admitted that. So I don't know if that's a policy thing or just the way that policing is done there. It's he was very polite about it, but it was racist nonetheless.
I think here in the UK, we do have something called Stop and Search. Yeah, and they have ramped it up and kind of dampened it down at different times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a massive thing, 70s to the 80s. Stop and Search was a huge thing that they used to use here in the UK. And I think it went quiet for a while, but yes, in the last few years, that has increased. As far as I know, a black male is 7 times more likely to be stopped by the police.
Wow.
That is unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if he's got a nice car or he, like you just said, if he's in a certain area, he will be stopped. And sometimes you don't get an explanation as to why.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we definitely have profiling here in the UK. It's a real thing. And we've got to do something about that. And I think, seeing the crowds of people protesting Black Lives Matter here in the UK. I mean, Hyde Park was thousands of people of all different nationalities.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, it gave me goosebumps because I was like, wow, like, people that are not Black,
right,
people that are white have an idea as to what it is that we are going through.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of understanding. And that's what it said to me, that they're willing to understand. They're willing to join forces and understand and be an ally. And that is powerful. I mean, we have an area called Oxford, which is predominantly white. You wouldn't really see many people of, Black origin there.
Right.
But the crowds were all white and they were all taking a knee and shouting Black Lives Matter. And it brought tears to my eyes because I just thought, wow, we're finally getting heard on some kind of level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is good because it's progress. But like you just said, it has to start at the top of the tree.
Right.
For change to happen on that level.
And speaking of the top of the tree, what has been the response from the Prime Minister's office? Have you even heard anything from the royal family regarding any of this?
I personally haven't, but I do think that the royal family are a great example of coming together. I do believe that. Prince Harry and Meghan, I don't know what your perspective is on them. Obviously, your news is going to be different to ours.
Right.
Here in the, there was some problems and issues that she was having here.
Yes.
That raised the part in that. But I have to say that she had a huge support system of Black, brown, whatever, white people that supported them and supported their marriage here in the UK. But I do understand their reasons for what they then went on to do.
Right.
Because, it's relentless here. The press can be relentless. They're a little bit like that. They're a little bit like a dog with a bone. They don't really let go. So to have a peaceful life, I can see why they would then make the decisions that they made. I'm in an interracial relationship myself, mm-hmm. and there are occasions where we have come up against people that don't like that.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely relate. Also in an interracial marriage, and I think basically it's at least in my case, we don't get as much hassle as some other couples do, probably because my reaction to it tends to be rather nasty, and there are just sometimes you just rather not deal with me. And
yeah, I totally get it.
Now, are you finding, because as it is here in the States, the people that are actually leading this movement, so to speak, are all younger and have basically grown up in an interracial, a multiracial, multicultural environment?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. We have that definitely here. The majority of people that are shouting the loudest are young people, mm-hmm. and they are tired and they really want to say no more to this. And we want to have real equality, not the fake crap. I don't know if you can swear on this show, Mark.
No, yeah.
So I won't.
Hey, no, hey.
might have to beat me.
First Amendment in the you're under First Amendment rules in the United States now. So,
yeah, we want real equality. I have a story. I was cooking with my husband, and we were talking obviously about this subject.
mm-hmm.
I just turned to him and I said to him, you know, one day it would be so nice to just walk into a place where no one knew me and it was full of people from all different places, and I didn't have to anticipate any bad reaction or comment or exclusion. I took a deep sigh and I sat in that feeling. And do you know what? That feeling felt like freedom, real freedom, to be who you are and for people to see you, really see who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and see the color. That was a nice feeling for a second there. And I felt good in that feeling, you know? And when I explain it to him, I mean, he's a white male, so his experience is not like my experience.
Right.
People on who he is when he walks into a room. So when I explain that to him, he has to really, he really takes his time to understand exactly what I'm saying and what I'm feeling. So yeah, that's where we're at.
To that point, I know there are a lot of interracial couples that are having conversations that they probably have never really had to this degree here as of late. I know my wife and I are speaking on a different level because it's like here in America, I think a lot of white people have tended to just kind of ignore everything, or the past is the past. That happened, 400 years ago. They're basing their thought process on the white default. And I think now, and I was talking about this the other day, it takes something as graphic as a man being choked to death with a knee on his neck to shock people out of their complacency. And the last time something like this happened was back in the early 60s during the first civil rights movement, when American people for the first time saw dogs and water hoses being turned on people just wanting to get equal rights. So it's something that's that drastic that shocks people out of their comfort zone. And I don't know if in England, if you have that sort of backdrop to the degree that we have here in America of being under a system of oppression since we were brought here. And, I know that there are parts of England that were a part of the transatlantic slave trade. And so there is a bit of that there. How acute is it in your daily existence as a Black woman there? Is the issue of slavery or immigration or anything like that an underlying factor for you or for a lot of people there?
I think it is. It depends on where you are in the country. Mm-hmm. I think it depends on your financial situation, because I think economics is involved in this. I was fortunate enough to be in a family that then was financially in a position where I then went to private education. So mm-hmm. I was privated. And in my school, there was people of different colours and from different places. So that gave me a very broad idea of people. I didn't even think of my race
right.
At that time. It really didn't pop into my head. It was after I entered the workplace mm-hmm. and venturing out into society that I then realised that, being a Black woman meant that people would say certain things or they would treat you in a certain way. And so I think that really is prevalent to where you are in the country. If you are a young Black male and you are born into a family where there's not much finances and maybe even you have a single mom, you will come across those types of struggles far more frequently. Absolutely. Because you are in a financial position mm-hmm. to choice, because at the end of the day, finances give you choice.
Right.
And
right.
That's one of the main things here in the UK. I think it was also as well, being a Black female, I think the police, I've never been stopped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never been stopped. So that wasn't my experience, but that doesn't mean to say that I didn't know and haven't family members that were stopped.
Right.
That happens quite a lot. So I think it really is tying in with the economics there for the country. But racism, it's alive and well. So we got a lot of work to do.
We're talking with Alison Joyce Rogers, all the way from England, who is the inventor of the tooth buckle. It's going to be available for worldwide distribution coming up on Friday, the 26th. So get ready for that. We've got more right after this.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
This is Mark Gunn Media. Hey, what's up? This is Mark Gunn. I have an audiobook that I collaborated on with author Steve Dust-Circle. It's called Before Your First Gig. It's written specifically for the new band or artist just getting started. In about 15 minutes, we will give you the blueprint for setting up to give live performances, marketing your band, and making your music presentable to the masses and the audience that you're going after. Thousands of dollars in sound advice for, get this, $3.99. That's right, $3.99. To download your copy, simply go to my website, markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com, and the link is on the homepage. It's available from Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. Just click the link that you prefer. As an added bonus, with the proof of purchase, I'll send you the Mark Gunn Media Artist Starter Kit at no additional cost. In it, you'll find all the resources you need to learn about music licensing and publishing, how to register your music with BDS and SoundScan in order to get radio airplay. There's also information about how to become a member of ASCAP and BMI. All the forms you need are included. And finally, the relationship between music and money, how you can cash in. Once you've downloaded your copy of Before Your First Gig, send me an email confirmation by going once again to the website, markgunmedia.com, and hit the Contact Us link. Just give me the name of one of the chapters you heard and any feedback about the book that you may have, and I will send you that Artist Starter Kit. Thousands of dollars worth of information for just under $4. You won't find this anywhere else. Remember, go to markgunmedia.com and download Before Your First Gig from the link on the homepage. Reach out with your proof of purchase by giving me the name of one of the chapters you heard, and the Mark Gunn Media Artist Starter Kit is yours at no additional cost. Mark Gunn Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip. This episode, BLM in the UK. We're talking with Alison Joyce Rogers, who is the owner and inventor of the tooth buckle, about the protests going on in England and the similarities between the Black lives there and the Black lives here in America. We're moving into, I think it's going on almost 20 days of solid protests here in America. And at least in Louisville, Kentucky, where I am, we've got a high-profile case, Breonna Taylor, who was pretty much assassinated by police officers here. We're at the point to where we've had no arrests, no suspensions, and the case is supposedly in the hands of the state's attorney general. We've heard nothing there. And so the protests in this city continue. Are you hearing anything about what happens to be next? So we're, transatlantically, internationally, we're still in the streets, we're still protesting. But what is the next step? Are you hearing any rumblings, any discussions about what to do next?
Well, we have a prominent MP here called David Lammy, and he basically is a really good representation in a lot of ways for the Black youth in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pushed forward an inquest. Well, the government pushed through an inquest, and David Lammy has said, and many other politicians have said, that we've had so many inquests into systematic racism. There's enough data to fill a truckload. So we don't need another inquest. We know, we know where the problems lie. So now it's time to take action. I think the MPs here are banding together to make sure that action is taken.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's starting from the point of how Black males in particular are penalised for the same crimes as a white counterpart, but their sentences seem to be 2 or 3 times more heavier than someone. I mean, we don't do the 100 years that you guys do in America. Sometimes it's pretty crazy, but we don't do that here. But there is a significant difference that's happening with our youth, where if there's a crime committed, it's heavily the Black male is penalised, and that cannot carry on. That there has to be a review on how this system works.
Mm-hmm.
But I do cultural change that's happening. A cultural change is really a different type of change than we've ever seen, because what we need to have is where Black, white, Hispanic, no matter where you're from, you call out racism when you see it at that moment.
Right.
You call it out. You say, no, like, what's this all about? Why are you treating that person like this?
Mm-hmm.
That has to happen, because otherwise racism goes back into its hiding places in all the different facets of life, So that's really what I think.
And we've got the same sort of sentencing disparities here as well. I'm just amazed at how similar our circumstances are. And at the same time, I'm kind of not, when you consider the common denominator in this whole thing. It just seems to me that your government has a much, much better handle on it than ours does, either on the local, or national level. We've got people that are still in denial that there's a racial problem here, despite all 400 years worth of evidence. And unfortunately, they are the ones that happen to be some of our elected representatives. So I'm going to be watching you guys to see what kind of progress you're making, because I have a feeling, as much passion as there is with everybody protesting, I've got a feeling that a lot of other countries are going to get a better handle on this before we do. And that's a sad thing to say, but that's what it's beginning to look like.
I think you guys have several problems, and one is the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have it bad here, but I mean, it seems to be just exponentially growing over time. And that itself has revealed the disparity between white and Black people. Why is it that Black people are more likely to die from the pandemic? We can think of all these reasons, such as diabetes being more prevalent in the Black culture, so whatever it may be. But the truth of the matter is that we live in more crowded accommodation, at least here in the UK.
Right.
And so you've got so many different family members living in a tighter space. And you've also got a lot of Black people that work in our NHS that are front line.
Mm-hmm.
So they are your cleaners, they are your porters, they are the front-facing jobs. So, of course, that means that you're more likely to come into contact with people that have COVID.
Right.
So I think the pandemic threw up this whole thing, and we kind of were like, oh, right, okay. Black people it's not just a diet thing. It's like I said, it's an economics thing as well. I thought that was quite shocking when we've got those details through.
Right.
It's a whole array of things. But I do think if people start looking out for each other, even in the smallest possible way, we are moving in the right direction. I feel that here in the UK, we are integrated in a lot of ways here in the UK. I live in a small village, and I'm probably not many Black people here. Probably very few. But that doesn't mean that my neighbours don't, we don't talk, we don't, we're not together, together. I mean, I've got friends of women that are in their 40s, 50s and 60s, all of which are white.
Right.
And we speak on a basis. And my gay friends that I love, and my Black girlfriends, and my Black and white girlfriends as well. So we've got a very connected society here in the UK, but that doesn't mean that we don't have systematic racism, because we definitely do. That raises its ugly head in many different ways. I mean, I can think of going to the dentist and I was treated in a certain way differently from the other ladies that were standing there, and she was really abrupt, made me feel really uncomfortable, dismissive, no eye contact. And any Black person that speaks to you, they know what that feeling feels like.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be words. It can be what we would call casual racism.
Microaggressions.
Yeah, same thing. And that's sometimes the hardest to pin down, because the person just says, oh, no, I didn't do that. That's harder to kind of call out. I know that I've made a promise to myself as a Black female. When I see that there are situations like that, I will call them out. I'm not waiting for other people to call it out. I'm going to call it out. And I will call it out for myself and for others if I see it.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best weapons to use. I know here in Kentucky, where we are the fourth most segregated state in the country, we definitely have our work cut out for us. Basically, to what you're describing, interpersonal relationships are cool for the most part, but when we get among the global community, that's when we really, really have a whole lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you really boil it down, it's so silly to judge someone on their skin color. It's crazy that we still do that in the 21st century. I mean, it's nuts, because people are people at the end of the day. And I think we really have to think about moving away from the stereotypes. There has been a time where a woman clutched her bag because I came into the room. That is a real thing.
Yes. Yes.
Or when my mother told my school teacher that she wanted me to go to private education, so I needed extra work. The whole class was facing forward and my desk was facing a wall, and it was turned to face a wall. I mean, those things actually happen. And then she shredded all my books. So I actually had nothing to show. I mean, that has to be said for what it really is. There are several times in my life that I've come across it, but I have to say, as a person, you have to find your strength, and you have to use that energy, that anger, to propel you forward in life. And that's why I started my business, because I have a daughter now and I want her to know that she can conquer anything that she puts her mind to. And I want to be an example for her, and hopefully to others as well. When I walk into a room and it's all white males, I can hold my own and have something to say, and they will listen. And I think we all need to move in that direction where it's a more integrated workplace at the top of the tree. The executives, the CEOs, the people that make the decision.
Right.
And people vote. They really do. They need to get out and vote. You need to vote, people. Don't complain and don't say that you missed it or whatever excuses. Here in the UK too, we need to vote. We need to make our voices heard and we need to go out and vote.
As a matter of fact, early voting here in Kentucky has already started as of the 15th. And mail-in ballots, we do have polling places that are open. All the information is available, so there are absolutely no excuses. We've got the demon from hell and Senator Mitch McConnell, who we have to get rid of. We've got no option in there. If we can get rid of Mitch McConnell, we can get rid of Donald Trump. We can get rid of Donald Trump. We can get rid of the Republican Congress. So basically, it's going to be on each and everybody listening to make sure that you are eligible to vote and make sure when your time comes that you do get out and vote. Once again, we're talking with Allison Joyce Rogers, who is the owner and inventor of the tooth buckle that will be coming to worldwide distribution pretty soon. Just go to her website, toothbuckle.com, if you want to get more information about that. And we're talking about the similarities and differences of Black lives in the UK and here in the United States. Now, you talked about your daughter very briefly. Is she old enough to kind of get a sense as to what's going on?
No, she isn't. She's only 2.
So yeah,
she's tiny.
So that's a different kind of different kind of thing to deal with. Oh my goodness, terrible twos, or maybe in your case, not so terrible twos.
She's a handful, a beautiful handful.
Right, and hopefully, you can navigate through this without, her life ever being disrupted like ours was, like yours was. And when you think about it, we're doing this not only for your daughter, but I've got a 2-month-old grandson that we need to see through the other side of this. And there's a lot of little kids that are asking questions, that are seeing what's going on. And it's up to us as adults to try to explain it and try to get them to navigate through it.
Yeah. And I listened to, is it Reverend Sharpton?
Yes, Reverend Sharpton.
He is, he's amazing. And I just loved his speech at George's funeral. Mm-hmm. We got that here. And, his words really penetrated into my soul almost, when he said, "Get your knee off our neck."
Yes.
I just felt like he summed it up in one quote. Mm-hmm. You just release your knee from our necks, we can thrive. And what's better than a society where everybody is thriving? It's a happier society. It's a more wealthier society.
Yes, definitely. More profitable. And in the U.S., though, one of the more, depending on how you look at it, pleasant aspects of this newfound passion to fight against racism is that, and it's a lesson that we've been trying to teach forever, racism is expensive. We got a lot of people that are losing jobs because of their stupidity. And Schadenfreude be damned, I love it. If you want to be racist, it should be expensive for you.
It should be expensive for you. Mm-hmm. And it's a case of that it is stupid. It doesn't make any sense anymore. It didn't make sense at the time. And so now in this 21st century, it seems almost barbaric to be of that mindset.
Right.
It seems aggressive as well. It's like, we already know that people are people, and we have to really get away from the same rhetoric that Black men are to be feared in some kind of capacity. I mean, if that stereotype, that stigma is ridiculous, because we could say that, white males they're known for certain crimes versus Black males. What does that mean?
Right.
This white men and we're scared of Black men. I mean, it does not make any sense. When we know better, let's do better.
Exactly. And I think on that note, because that's a great quote to leave everything on, we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. But once again, Allison Joyce Rogers, the inventor of the tooth buckle, coming soon. This is going to be sold exclusively on Amazon, right? Or other outlets?
Nationally, our website launches on Friday the 26th of June. Mm-hmm. You can sign up now. You just have to go to toothbuckle.com. And we're shipping out internationally. And I tell you what, it's the sexiest toothbrush cover you've ever seen in your life.
You know, actually it is. I'm digging the form factor, so I may have to get a couple.
Yeah, good, Mom. Thank you so much.
No, the pleasure has been mine. I definitely appreciate it because I've always wanted to get a perspective of how this whole movement is being seen overseas, and the fact that I've got the chance to promote a Black businesswoman is that much of a bonus for me because we're all about promoting Black business here on our podcast. So, hey, 2 for 1.
You nailed it.
There you go. So once again, toothbuckle.com. You want to sign up, be on the lookout for the launch of the website and the international shipping. And of course, you can find this episode and past episodes of Gunshot Straight from the Hip on our website at markgunmedia.com. Just go to the podcast link. And we'll have more information about Allison's company there as well. All right. Any parting words for our audience here in the U.S.?
I would say that be as fabulous and as wonderful as you ever imagined that you could ever be.
You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.